Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live or listening to replay. Always appreciate you all for tuning in live or listening to replay. Long-time listeners have listened for years to the vault and the podcast that the vault has. Traditionally talking about business, we do talk about finance. We deal with quite a few high net worth individuals, families, and as well we deal with individual entrepreneurs that are even under $250,000 in the states. So plethora and range for people to give experience that we have. And so that's why this episode is important. This is episode 193, the real cost for private financial education. And just really excited to do this episode today. Once again, this episode is the Vault episode 193, the real cost for private education, private financial education. And the reason why it's so important to talk about this subject matter is because there is a cost. A lot of people have avoided this cost. A lot of people are not aware of the type of cost that it entails. But when we talk about private financial education, there is a clear distinction between public and private educations. And so when we are fully aware that there is a distinction, we want to talk about, well, what does it really cost from the vault's perspective, as well with another party today. We have our credit queen, someone that has helped trustees and the like to move forward with credit in the realm of real estate and just business credit as well. So, of course, always can do the personal, but at the vault we always talk about business, not personal. So, really do our best to push the business agenda forward. But there is a real cost for private financial education, and so we want to talk about that. So, Matala, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you. Yeah,
Thank thank you for having me on with you. I'm
always
ready to go ahead and dive in.
awesome, awesome. Well, when we talk about the real cost for a private financial education, would you say that there's a cost? And do you have a private education? Could you speak on just at least the fact that you have one, and maybe even your first experience with having to invest in yourself for private education?
Okay, yes, certainly. Okay, so yes, there is a cost for private education, and I think that even thinking about private financial education, they can be broken down into different levels upon itself. But one of the very first investments that I made in my private financial education was learning more about the actual credit industry, like the commercial credit. So I purchased like an online e-course, books. That was my first investment in the private financial education. I think it starts one of the very first, steps you can make is investing into yourself, education wise, to learn more, to understand, to be able to know how it works. And that was like my first step out. So I think I spent like $300 and I got like a credit package to show me how you send out all of the different disputes and different stuff like that. I learned history about the industry, the makeup of it. That's key to understand getting different information. So it didn't stop there. Along the path of learning more about personal credit, evolved to business credit, and over time I've invested thousands of dollars in myself, in my education. And sometimes it's a hit or miss, but a lot of times you still end up picking up what you need to learn, and that's the part of the financial journey that educational, private financial educational journey. You start to grow, you start to learn more, and you figure out what's the areas that impact me the most that I need to kind of buckle down on.
Well, it's interesting that you started out even talking about what you said because I think it shares so specifically the fact that you went into credit. It really shows that uh, a private education is a financial education. There is free information is bad information. But people would say, oh, well, where do you get your information? It's in private investing. That's the bottom line. The most quality information comes from the private investing. So when you talked about, hey, winning the credit, that just shows you right from the beginning that a financial education is a self-driven venture. It is a self-motivated venture. It's a private venture. Why? Because if public was so great, the public will have the results. It will have the proof in the pudding, and it doesn't have the
Okay.
proof in the pudding. Right now, the public is okay with bankruptcies, whereas in the private, people's family names are on the line, their reputations are on the line. See, in a private financial education, people are aware of how to not do things in their name because their family taught them that. So they have, or their business coach that they actually got their private investment that they invested in themselves to get a private education. And it's so important to even hear you say that just from the beginning, that when you were going through looking to invest in your private education, first field you gravitated towards was credit. And that is a mystery to the public school system. And so when people question that and say, oh, well, how powerful is it to have a private financial education as opposed to a public financial education? You can clearly see that there's a difference when someone says, I invested in learning how to deal with credit. And when you talk about when you say deal with credit, because that is a private education, what are some of the many elements that people just the mistakes that they run into? And I want you to address personal and business. What are just some of the mistakes that people run into by not having a proper private financial education, specifically in credit building in general, especially when you talk about there's so many small business entrepreneurs, people that are grassrooting it, people that are sole propping it, and they're looking to go LLC and C corp. And it's like, okay, well, if you're going to do a small business, you still can have things in place. And we can get really deep on you all today about private financial education deals with dress. It doesn't just have to deal with, the numbers on the paper, and it's not just you knowing knowledge. It is about execution. And so a private financial education traditionally will come from a mentor or a mentoring role person in someone's life to give them that specific information because A, it's specific, and two, it's private. So she
Yeah.
specifically beseeched out someone for credit. And I just want to hear, more about, the personal and business and that.
Okay, got you. Well, on the personal side in credit, where you could see is instrumental to kind of have a good idea. And a lot of it, most people face it when what they want to go out and get something, and that's the wrong philosophy because we were taught to just use, and really credit is a system that you put back in, and you want it to be in a sense revolving, right? And that's a form people heard that term in credit revolving. It means you can continue to use it over and over, and that's how many people mess up. So one of the major things is most people are not aware of the different, just something as basic as the scoring systems that we have the FICO, you have Vantage. Many people, I'll check my Credit Karma. Okay, first level, good job. Now you need to invest. You need to pay for a credit monitoring service. Like knowing things like that it's a difference in having a free credit monitoring service versus having a paid credit monitoring service, the different benefits, the different uh, scoring systems itself, what makes up a credit score. So those are like different fundamental things that they're very important. Why? Because you want to understand what it is that you're doing. Don't just go like, oh, I'm gonna go get a credit card. I'm gonna go get these cards, and you're gonna fall because you're not gonna utilize them right. It's an algorithm that they go by, so it's an algorithm that we should go by, and that's kind of what you learn more as you invest into yourself and into your financial education, especially on your personal side. You can see how you can leverage it, utilize it so it could be a tool for you. Now, even on the business side, so when we talk about, you want me to talk about business as well. So on the business financial side, most people are, the first step is what? Get your business credit report. Do you have a profile? How is that set up? Now we're gonna start, you look at different stages when you're building it, and you'd be surprised how many people have just never even pulled their business credit reports to see what's on their reporting instead of assuming, oh, I never did anything in my business name. but then you do a search and you see that your business did come up. So the fact that the business came up, that lets you know that either you have a failing score in their system because why you have no credit, or you have credit that's there that you wasn't aware of that was reported, and possibly it could be positively reported or it could be negatively. So the first step is to be aware of it, and I think on both sides that's both major, and that's one of the parts that people only think about using it when think about credit when they want to use it, when they want to pull from it. And it's really a system that needs to be kind of TLC just a little bit, you gotta put in, put out, put in, put out like that. So that's how it breaks down. And once you learn those fundamentals, it walk you through the stages of understanding, learning more about it. And that's how I evolved in my learning and my understanding.
Okay, great. So, I think so many people count the actual cost. Oh, you spend $300 for those books in the beginning. And we go to these private workshops, these private financial workshops that range anywhere from 300, 200 to 500 to $1,800. Could be more, depending on. But a lot of the things that are in the states, when it comes to getting a private financial education. But a lot of people don't count the opportunity cost lost by not actually getting that education, by not actually investing in themselves when they have the opportunity to immediately right then and there at that moment. What would you say about that from your perspective, not investing in the opportunity, excuse me, actually the opportunity cost loss, which, people are losing because they didn't invest in themselves. The money that they could have made, some people don't count the cost of losing how much they lost by not taking action and investing in themselves and their private education. And could you actually share a story, possibly a failure of when you didn't invest in your private education from an opportunity cost loss perspective?
Oh yeah, I could do that. I definitely could do that. So even just touching in on why I think um, with my clients and experiencing um, from the personal people who want to get their like personal credit clean, right, and even to their business. Most of the time, you see that people's like, "Oh, if I would have just did this, I wish I would have known this years ago," stuff like that. And most of they just never venture to go to learn it. So opportunity that I experienced would be so in actually investing in myself. A lot of times people don't take the information serious when they get a deal or offer, or you might not be in a position. And at this particular time, I wasn't in a position to take advantage of being like a partner in a startup of a company that was dealing with software. And it was dealing with credit and software. So time passed. I had a time frame and let me know how much I need to put in. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna do it. I want to do a little more research. And I was at the very beginning of my journey now. And just now, even just what it was, it's 5 years later, the company has like straight blew up. Like they blew up. I had a chance of being right at the start level, everything. And now they want to like the major commanders of this industry. And that was the experience that I had. But what it taught me was that you don't have a window of infinite time to take advantage of a certain opportunity or information when it presents itself to you. And information does change, it evolves, it grows. So if you're not willing to kind of make your decision when you need to, it will leave, it will grow, it will keep going. That's what it's meant to do. So even though I missed that opportunity, I still saw that it was motivation. Like, damn, I missed it.
Yeah,
I gotta go harder. I gotta. It would have been easier, maybe, or something like that. But that was something I look back on, and I missed that because I was procrastinating, or whether I felt like I didn't want to spend that money at that time. A lot of those are factors, and they valid. They definitely valid for that person or for that time. Whatever's going on in their life. However, it is it's still a time clock going, and you can miss that opportunity. So I didn't get a chance to purchase the product and get my investment in, and as a result, like I'm like everybody else now, just sign up for a monthly subscription.
right.
That's
And
one of my
that's the most interesting part is that a real cost for a private financial education can come down once again to the opportunities that you're not able to take advantage of because you didn't prepare yourself educationally. And so I think that, like, at the vault, we aim to provide a private financial education just in general through trusteeship, because it is that, it is in contract. And so when we talk about people missing out on opportunities, people have missed out on opportunities, even with this pandemic situation going on in the states and in the world. And right now we're moving into May, but people have, they weren't prepared for this moment. A lot of people would say they weren't prepared for this moment financially. A lot of people would say that. And that doesn't matter what level people are living at, because people are still, the corporations live paycheck to paycheck. We did an episode about that. Corporations file for bankruptcy. So it doesn't matter what level an individual is at. Bankruptcy is not bad. A lot of people think bankruptcy is bad. They say, "Oh, how are you gonna get out of that situation? Oh, it's gonna stick on your credit." Well, let's hear it from the credit queen. Does it stick on your credit?
You can get a bankruptcy off your credit report.
Right. Well, how soon can you get it off?
Well, okay, so when bankruptcies report to your credit report, they report in different statuses, right? You have dismissed, and then you have discharge. So the main important thing about it is the time. Like how did it just report? Sometimes it's sweet spots. So you have sweet spots and scenarios. You have a sweet spot when it just started reporting. You have a sweet spot when it's already closed or it's no longer showing that it's open. So we kind of work it based off of those two areas. But you can get it on there. And just the fact of one, the fact is that the banks don't furnish the information to the credit bureaus. It's furnished from a third party, so that alone gives you ground that it's errors. That's always a good loophole.
And I'm so happy you made that point. And that's why I just keep having to do these type of episodes, is because a private financial education comes from knowing that bankruptcy isn't bad. Specifically when you have someone like the President Donald Trump that has over 200 plus companies, thousands of companies are under his control, but he's bankrupted less than 20. That's called good professional money management. That's called a good sound private financial education. A lot of people say, "Oh, bankruptcy's bad." Clearly, it's not when he's a billionaire. So it's not
It's a
bad.
loophole. Bankruptcy is a loophole. And again, that goes to financial education and how certain things have been presented to us with our financial literacy. Is that a lot of times we've been presented with information from a biasness from the person who was giving it, a messenger. The messenger was giving it to you based off of how they personally felt, not based off the fact that, hey, you can utilize this and leverage this. If you have these debts, do this. It wasn't coming from that type of advice. So it kind of got ran with like a fable, and it just kept going like, oh no, you filed bankruptcy. And instead of realizing that, bam, you really did just charge all that debt off, and now you get a restart, and those debts are paid, so you can essentially go back to those creditors and get debt again if you wanted to. It wasn't presented like that.
And that's where, once again, we go back to investing in your private education. Why private financial education? Because you're not going to be able to get that knowledge in the public. Clearly, the public has pure confusion of what the subject matter is. Some lawyers will say you win, some lawyers will say you lose. They got three different ones that people know about. Some people only know about one, they don't know about all of them. If you go into a lawyer, tell them, "Hey, I'm just trying to file X, Y, and Z, chapter X, Y, and Z," what do you think they're going to do? They're going to give you what you're paying for.
Right.
So how you gonna be? Oh man, the lawyer, he was supposed to counsel me. Well, you didn't go in there with that approach. You went in there with the approach, I need this. So they already thought you had your mind made up. And not only that, they're salesmen, so they're trying to get any money they can.
That's the main thing right there. They salesmen, but technically they are supposed to sit down with people and let them know every option that they have in front of them. But if you're not aware of what process is supposed to happen when you sit down, like you don't do your due diligence and say, okay, I'm sitting down in front of them. He needs to run every scenario that I could possibly qualify for. But you go in and you go with what your cousin told you, and they said you could file bankruptcy, and they told you which chapter they filed, and that's the one you have to file. So that's another part of the literacy part. Every scenario is not the same. Every scenario, everybody, we're not cookie cut into the same lane of credit. You did something different. I might have an inquiry, you may not have an inquiry. That's a difference right there. That's, so many people don't take that into consideration when they make their decisions like that.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation to see people not count the cost, or they are counting the cost to find out what's really going on in the private, and they're counting that cost and limiting their look. When a person comes into knowledge of self and says, "Oh wow, I actually know that I've been duped. I've been given bad information." If you can come to the realization that most of the information that you're seeing in public media is garbage anyways, which we already live in the era of fake news, but for some odd reason people still want to turn to the news because they don't have proper educational sources. They even still think that going to Harvard Business Review is the elite platform. The elite platform is actually the private education being able to decipher what you're looking at on Harvard Business Review. So it's a great thing to read Harvard Business Review, but just remember that is a media source. It's still has a level of, you got to have a watchful eye for what the situation is. Most people do not know what derivatives are. These are financial terms. So if a person doesn't know financial terms, then how do you can you say you have a proper financial education? This is what the public is pissed off about. The fact that they don't have a proper private financial education. Well, guess what? That's nobody's fault. If you want to blame somebody, you have to blame your parents. You can't blame the school system. It's public school. It's your parents didn't pay for the school system to be in place. J.D. Rockefeller did with the Board of Education and friends. And now it's the Board of Education. That's who paid for that to be in place. And when you read it's a mandate. So when you come into private financial education, you know that there's financial terms called a mandate, and the mandate for the endowment is what? To teach. If you want to go for all the African Americans that listen to the podcast, especially in the States, when you get Morehouse and Spelman that have the largest endowment through Rockefeller, why do they come that way? Because he wanted to educate, at the time they called them Negro kids, Negro children from rural areas to work in urban areas so they could work in manufacturing plants.
Right. And now it's to control the greatest minds, They won't if they made it appealing where all of the smart, brilliant minds go, but then at the same time you going to a school that's considered elite or prestigious or whatever, when you getting trained with this same thought process at the end of this programming of this school. Like it was almost genius. It's sinister, we know how they move anyway, but just still, they want the brilliant minds. And do they come back to the communities for real? Not necessarily.
Right. And so, the cost of not having a private education is financial ruin. Oh man, what do you mean financial ruin? The stats are out. For you, the ones that want to accept Social Security, how about you go read the statistics of people that live their whole life, pay into the system, and then when they reach 65, guess what? They moved the age past 65. Oh, dang, I didn't know that. Yeah, because you're not 65, so or you didn't do the research. You didn't get the private financial education. So it's not when you're 65. People get penalized at certain ages now. Now it's more like a 70. Oh, man, what do you mean? It moved past 65, now it's 70? Yeah, it's moved before, and it can move again. You're not in control of that financial situation. And people say, oh, Social Security, gotta make sure, that I pay in and everything's great. People say, "Oh, I'm getting my just due right now. I'm getting what the government owes me." How does the government give you something that you gave them? That's called they're the holder right now, giving you disbursements. That's what financial education put. It puts you in a position that you're a beneficiary when you accept a handout from the government. It's a beneficiary position. Oh man, well, how is that bad? I mean, I paid into the system. My business, everything. We put money into the system. First of all, This is how you know you don't have a proper financial or a private financial education. Most people don't even know the difference between real money and fake money. So we hear everybody say, especially the young millennials, they don't want to believe in money. People don't want to believe in money. They say, oh, money's not real. Oh, it's not? But what's the real money though? A private financial education makes sure you know what real money is. Why don't people know how to trade on the stock market? Because they don't know contract. What do you trade on the stock market? Contracts. I'm not actually trading real sugar. I'm not picking it up and giving it to somebody. You're trading a contract. That's what the financial markets are. But when people don't have a proper private financial education, which is contract law, contracts, then how are you going to be able to make proper decisions? People say, "Oh, I don't know how to make a," because even when it comes to private education, well, I don't know what to invest in, or I don't know, capital wise, where to put the money. I'm afraid to take the risk. You think that's the solution? You got to invest. You got to make mistakes. When you look at financial terms such as alpha, what's the alpha? What's the principle? And so there is a mindset that people don't have. And they don't have it because they don't have a private financial education. We already see what the results of public financial education is. It's simply put, people are accepting the benefit. Why? Because they're entitled to it. Once again, what they say, I put the money in, I should get it back out. There's penalties for that. So why participate in a loser's game, a crutch system, to help you when you get old and decrepit and you can't take care of yourself or your children can't take care of you? A, because you can run into the problem like they're running into in China, which this is bad fiscal policy, which is managing how many children people have. That's bad fiscal education. They're managing people's birth rate. That's the cost of a real financial education. When people say, oh, I want to run from the United States to all these other countries, you run into China where they have birth restrictions? Oh, okay. See, when you have a private financial education, you actually research financial markets. We get so many people that came through the trading course, they would literally look at Forex pairs and have never, even if they're looking at the Forex pairs, they literally still do not go and look at financial information from those areas, from Canada. They don't look at financial information from what's the other place? Australia. They don't look at financial information in Singapore. They don't look at financial information in India. They don't look at financial information in South Africa. They don't look at financial information in Brazil. Why? Because they got a job. They're distracted. Social media's got their tongue. The real cost of a private financial education is you're missing out on opportunities because you're not educating yourself every single second of the day, because you know that the only reason you're not where you possibly may want to be is because of finance. Not because you didn't give enough hugs, you didn't put enough likes or heart emojis on people's pages. That's not what is separating you from your goals. It's putting more likes and hearts. It's not scrolling on pages. It's not making comments. It's having a private financial education. And what does that cost? It costs any individual that can say in this current moment, oh wow, it's 5/19, it's May 19th, and my pockets is hurting. Why is your pockets hurting? It's private financial education. Think about the program that you're running on right now. The program for financial success or financial ruin. Now we get a lot of the real estate gurus come in and they say, oh, real estate's the passive income, music's the passive income. We get the passive incomers that come in and talk about it as a private financial education. Why? Because the public side says work hard. The public side says work. Time, oh, what's their favorite line? The worst cliche to tell somebody: time is money. So what do people go do? They trade their time for money. Guess what? Rich people don't work for assets. Private families, private financial education says you don't work for money. You have assets. That's what passive income deals with. The assets, generating cash flow. Oh no, I went to public school. Guess what? All my public school teachers, they got paychecks. So obviously I'm not gonna know what residual income is or cash flow is. Why? Because they're not getting it. They don't know what it's like. They're not experiencing. And if they were supposed to be teaching a class on how to keep that going. And guess what? If you didn't show up to class, they still will have cash flow coming in. But it's not taught that way because they're in a position where they're given the information. So that when everybody loves to tout right now, their favorite cliche, information, we're in the information age. So what's the most important piece? Information. Well, where are you getting your information from? Free sources. So you have to invest in your private financial education, not in the public education. Why? Because look at the results they're producing. You could check a tree by its fruit. The cost of not having a private education is having a degree and saying, "Oh man, I'm an accountant and I'm filing for unemployment right now." How are you an accountant filing for unemployment? You want to know how? Because you don't know what you're worth. How about that? You don't know what you're worth. Every business needs an accountant. All financial business is still going on. That means it's an essential industry. So they already have dumped down into the stupor, which is the public, that guess what? They're not worth anything. That's the real cost of having an accountant degree and not knowing what you're worth. So now they're filing for unemployment instead of getting online, using their LinkedIn, using their education and actually putting it to good use. The education that they got in the public that they're in. Guess what? Not only do they have an education, they got student loans. Private financial education, guess what? It's pay, get, and leave. People definitely come to the vault with a level of skepticism. Why wouldn't you? You're supposed to have that in the public when you're making more money than your financial advisor. How many of you all are making more money than what your financial advisor was making? And even still, you should ask how many people ask their financial advisor, how big is the portfolio you're managing? Are you in direct management or is it a group management by the fund that someone else is managing? And boy, how many people just went through the worst financial time of their life with a goddamn financial planner? They're the financial educator. On the public side, where did they get their education from? CPA, Certified Public Accountant. How do you know about the private if you're saying you're public? Right. They don't want to tell you that they don't know about the private. Why? Because it is an investment in your private education. That's a for sure fact. You got to invest in your private education. It may not be something you can just roll up to a public college and say, "Oh man, how come I'm not able to get the private knowledge about trust?" And, how come the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Berkshire Hathaway Foundation, and the foundations are running the Ford Foundation and the Carnegie Foundation. I mean, we can just keep going on with the foundation, but oh no. People didn't want to invest in the private one. We got people that came through and they listed the episodes, but now they want to say, "Oh, you should go get the public side." See, you want to know how people really want to get down with the private financial education? They're looking to get rid of everything public. They wish they could get rid of it, one, and two, they are looking to get rid of it. So there are two people that come to the private financial education. The ones that want, it's a wish and a fancy. Why? Because that sounds good. Own none, control everything. It's like every other cliche you said tonight. What does that cost you? You can Google all those cliches. What happens when you come into the private and you learn about credit? That means you're never without money again. See, Chi, I'm about to go ahead and bust them over the head right now because this is real simple. We've had people come through and talk ill about the CPNs. And I just want you to talk about it. Coming from a credit perspective, from a private financial education, because we know who's listening to the podcast. From the Moorish to the redemption to the, I'm trying to go private, I don't want to be in the public anymore. So could you talk about that, Amatala? Could you talk about if you could you talk about the purpose of it possibly? If you're not if comfortable with it, just let me know. But and I respect that, but I definitely want you to talk about that because so many people come to the vault and they, oh man, I heard about this, but they're not educated on it. See, we don't want to just bite someone's head off for or dismiss them because of their lack of financial education. That's not the case. See, there is no dismissal for the lack of private financial education. What there is there is a questioning of how bad do you want the private financial education. Why? Because it's got to be something that you're willing to give up everything to relearn and move forward where you're moving like a social elite. Period. Where you are sitting on hard tangible assets right now. You are not thinking about financial ruin. You're thinking about selling an asset before you go into financial ruin. That's the first major principle we go over in trustee training. Is knowing what real money is. So if you got paper, you might be in a not sweet position. But cash is still king. So we agree, cash is king, but credit is queen. So could you talk about that, Amantala?
Yep, I sure can. Okay, so with CPNs, right? CPNs is credit privacy numbers, and many people feel different kind of ways about CPNs, mainly because it's a gray area in credit. So what I mean by gray areas, a lot of loopholes. Many people make their money in gray areas, like especially in the financial industry. You learn a gray area, you walk it, and you do what you need to do. You know what I'm saying? It's not illegal to have a credit privacy number. Now, what people kind of look down on is the actions that people take. So basically, what will make your number illegal? Okay, you commit fraud with it. Yeah, fraud is illegal. So that's how it get associated with. Oh, it's illegal, it's fraudulent. But pretty much, you're establishing another credit um, profile for yourself that's separate from your personal social, but it's meant for. First of all, social security number is it's a social security number. It's private. It was meant for that system, the social security system, to be able to track your payments, all that stuff like that. So it was never truly intended in its original, when they made it to be for credit purposes, because credit was something that was introduced later, and they started using people's social to utilize it. So when they first started making CPNs, CPNs was something that was, privacy, celebrities, politicians, stuff like that. They was using CPNs to keep their private identity, to keep their identity private, separate. So they still could be able to apply for credit and stuff. So imagine, people see your name and oh my God, they got all the information. So that was one of the main things. So with credit, with CPNs, it's used for credit purposes only. You can apply for credit. Now you can leverage it, utilize a whole second credit profile. Like it can be used like that. And it also could be used on the flip side. So when like when you talk about the gray areas, it could go either way. You can use it and lose it, so to speak. And a lot of people have done that and abused it in that kind of case where establishing credit and just like dumping it down. But the point is to be responsible, to be able to be an honor in the system, and to be able to leverage two good, positive credit profiles as you need to, instead of just getting it, building it, dogging it out. No, that's not the idea. And that doing it within that way, within itself, that is what they consider fraudulent intent to, you don't have any intent to pay. And that's big. That's how they can come after people with stuff like that. But I definitely think it's a tool when it's utilized correctly. I personally
Yeah,
still have.
we're good to go. We don't need to know any of that personal stuff. No, it's just business. I just wanted to clear
Got
the
you.
air on the skepticism around these things, because what happens is so many people are fearful because they haven't done the proper due diligence. They feel that a lot of these different areas of study, such as finance, such as spiritual, such as their health, all these things are extra study time. And how can they study when they have to go scrolling on Instagram and Facebook and all these other social media platforms when they want to go scroll? So the cost of time is losing the fact that you're not getting educated. And we know so many people, we have mentors throughout the years that would tell us people literally after they left college would never want to read another book a day of their life. And that's
I
not
can see
good.
that. And I
It's
can see
crazy.
that it's not, but they dedicated so much time and energy into a system that barely is paying off. Like how many people really go to college and they be like, man, that was just it's not that many. That's not the story for everybody. People go to college, they either learn how to make money being a professional student, or they find something else they want to do, that's really not even in the lane of what they went to college for. So I think it's because they get they associate the wrong dissatisfaction. They're dissatisfied with the fact that they went through all those years, I think, probably, and didn't get the outcome, or they were sold on that this was gonna change my whole life. This all I needed to do was go to college. And after that, I'm gonna, the field I went in, I'm gonna make the max of that salary. And, school creates employees, and that's what it does. It creates employees.
It was inter-
College, they
It's interesting because somebody typed into the chat. Appreciate the comment from Dark Matter. They said, "My people suffer for the lack of," and they put a bunch of question marks and they suffer from a lack of knowledge. But the thing about it is, if we're in the information age, the information on the public side is so pervading of how much information is out there. If a person is not even initially made aware of the private sector and the private financial education, they literally are stuck over in an area where it's completely gray, it's completely misinformation, disinformation. You literally have professionals on different channels for the same industry, which is financial information, and they're literally one saying buy, one person saying sell. So how does that benefit the public or the people in general that say, hey, I actually want to be in control of my finances? When you say that, you're looking to actually know financial information that's actually very real, and not just, oh, this guy's getting paid $60,000 to tell you a goddamn story and he's wearing makeup on TV. It doesn't work that way in financial markets. See, the guys that are actually making money, they're not wearing makeup. They're not on TV. That's
no.
just being honest. Cornell, the trading partner, always gets on me about wearing suits and ties. He's like, because as a trader, traders traditionally don't wear suits and ties. They kind of are just really casual. They're sitting in the house. They're trading from anywhere in the world. So when it comes from the trading perspective, that's a private education in and of itself. But that means that you have that private education. You know that you can dress the way that you want because it's about your mindset and your performance. But there's also research that the vault can put out to trustees and has put out to trustees that you the way you dress and the way that you take care of yourself will be reflected in other areas of your life, specifically how you're doing business. So it's very important to groom and take care of yourself to where you're able to exude the result that you're looking to exude. And so I actually want to pivot into that part of the conversation, Amata, where we talk about the real cost of a private financial education, because I want you to talk about the mistakes entrepreneurs make, investors make, that we see. They come to us. These are people, they're almost begging on their knees, crying. Oh man, we need some money. We need asset protection. So how do you come crawling on your knees saying that you need some help, but then when you get to the pearly gates, you wonder if it's heaven? Man, I
Right.
knocked on the door. I thought this was heaven. Guess what? God opens up the door and says, I'm here, my child, come in. And they said, well, if I come over, I'm really going to have to let go of all my sin. Yeah, that's the purpose of going to heaven. You got to let go of all your sin. So, what is the cost, the sin, Amatsala, for not having a private education, specifically in the area of dress? Me and you both have dynamite stories within the past 7 business days with people working from home and dressing down. This is still business. This ain't personal. Oh man, I'm staying at home, so I could be a little bit more comfortable. But guess what? The best of them. Do you see the guys that are selling you the financial information on TV? Aren't they wearing suits and ties? It's called a
Right.
sales position. Could you talk about the dress, one of the experiences you had, and a word of wise, especially to the young ones that are out here in business, talking about they about to go into a bank and get a loan, or think that they can apply for credit and not think that they have to dress the part? The real
Right.
cost of a private education?
Yeah, it's definitely will be costly. Okay, so the look that you have, it makes a big deal, and especially when you're talking about the different stages. You hit a point. Okay, yeah, you're a trader. You at home. You could be relaxed. If you're in a financial industry, you're going into a meeting with a banker. you shouldn't be so relaxed. This is not the time to be relaxed. This is not when you want to wear basketball shorts. So, experience that I had, I work with different clients. I do funding, financing, and sometimes, a lot of times, I think, well, when you make it look easy, people don't really appreciate the work that's put in, and they don't play their part like they need to. Well, just with the client, he was going into the bank. He was literally going to pick up $50,000 check, and it was all good. He just literally go in the bank, pick up the check, called me. Yeah, they said that they need to call me tomorrow, or no, they're gonna call me on Monday. Somebody will give me a call. I'm like, damn, dude, what happened? You went to the bank wearing basketball shorts. You had on Jordans. You didn't look at all. So yeah, you have this credit score. We built you have everything you need to show. However, when you went in, you allowed for them to, in a sense, prejudge you. And what did they do? They used banker's discretion, and that was a deal that was lost, because now we went to the fraud department, and the fraud department, whereas some if you experience like I've experienced, you can have everything to the T. The fraud department, it just depends on the rep you're working with, for real. So it killed the deal. The deal was over with. It was guaranteed. It was done. It was done. It was approved. It was go in, sign your paperwork, and get your check. And the look, not being able to, one, have enough knowledge that this isn't the setting for this attire. That's important. That's goes into the private education that you receive, or understanding that this scenario just calls for this type of dress. It is what it is. I may not be comfortable wearing this every day, but I need to get comfortable with it if this is the type of money that I want to deal with. If these are the type of people I need to sit in front of, then you play your part. Just like when you want to go in to get funding in business, you don't go in and tell them, hey, I just want to get this, but I don't have any credit at all, and I need y'all to, give me the max of what you give. You show them what they need to see so you can get what you need to get, and you don't come until you qualify. And that's how it goes. So the look is imperative. It will kill your deal, and you got to realize, like, in these situations, whatever you're doing, they people have the discretion to judge, to make their decision. In this society right now, people, oh, don't judge me, don't judge me. You're getting judged. It is what it is. You can't get past it. You're gonna be judged. So remember that. Walk walk that line. Walk that. Be on your square. Period.
Right. And that's the real cost for private financial education is you're in the rooms now and you're learning about the real money, or you learned about the real money, you learn about the dress, you learn about banking. Banking is critical. How many people know about banking? Why would if people know what hypothecation is, why would you be okay with parking your money in a bank? How many people have researched international bank accounts? That's a private financial education. Why? It was of no interest. See, we're going to share with you that public school is a programming. They program you for a certain thing. And it's the same thing when you come into a private financial education. You get programmed. You look for certain style of assets. You look for certain types of language. Why? Because those let you know that the deal is good. Why do most people not know what a good deal is? Because they haven't seen enough deals. Well, how do you see more deals? You got to get in the environment where it's business, not personal, and you can actually have access to see those deals. Some people say, well, I don't have enough money right now. Why would I be looking at deals that are $1 million deal or $1 billion deal? Well, that shows that you're never going to be there, actually. Because if you plan on being there, then you're going to read deals before you get there. So when you get there, they're not an abnormal conversation. That's what gets you in those rooms. It's by reading deals before you get there. I was actually looking at Uber's pitch deck earlier, actually when they came out, which was really cool. Got a got an opportunity to look at their pitch deck, their first pitch deck um, for Uber. And you just see these things. Those things are important. When you're putting together your mobile application company, it might be important to read other tech companies that are doing these type of things. Pitch deck. But how many people even know what a pitch deck is? Let me share with you all what having not having a private financial education is. When we talk to the average entrepreneur, because this is called average, you're definitely average if you don't know that an operating agreement or the corporate bylaws are. You know how many MBAs have contacted the vault and said they don't know what the operating agreement or the corporate bylaws are? That's the cost of a private financial education. Period. They don't know what an operating agreement is. They don't know what bylaws are. Well, what does that mean? Was that my is that bad? Is that I don't know. How is that bad for my company? I never had that. So how are you dealing with taxes with your company? Like how how is there not some type of document that says it's called corporate governance, ladies and gentlemen. People come into so many different programs. It's corporate governance. That's what a private education gives you. It lets you know about corporate governance. Not sitting here talking about, man, I don't know that I needed an operating agreement, or I didn't know that I needed corporate bylaws. You know how many people still contact the vault and say they don't know the difference between an S corp, C corp, and LLC? Ladies and gentlemen, you are in a position of power where you should be able to call 5 to 10 local business attorneys and ask them within a 20-minute period, hey, can you educate me on the difference between an LLC, S Corp, and C Corp? Because I'm thinking about starting one as a founder. But what happened? People don't take the initiative. They want it to be handed to them. They want to scroll and see if it's in the marketing ad campaign on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever campaign that's going on those platforms. The real cost of a private financial education is not buying into the hype of the guys that can give you the quick fix to your situation. The quick fix. You know how many times the vault has turned people down and said, you're not ready for trusteeship, but you are ready for directorship. You are ready to be a board member of a LLC, S Corp, or C Corp. You are prepared for that. Why? Because you want to be an entrepreneur. And from that position alone, you can actually not just limit yourself to entrepreneurship, you can be an investor as well. So getting in a position of LLC, S Corp, C Corp puts an individual in a position where they say, I actually am taking advantage of a business private education. See, if an individual doesn't want to face the facts that they don't have a private financial education, then if that's the case, how come these individuals don't know the law? A private financial education is rooted in the law. Why? Because it's about contracts, and contract makes the law. So how they gonna say that they got a good education? That's why most people say I don't have a good financial education, or they don't feel confident in their financial education. Why? They know where they got it from. It's rooted
Right.
in. Go ahead.
And you had said something, Sheree, but I wanted to touch on was like the idea that many people don't even, the foundational things. Those are like foundational things, knowing which what's the difference between the different corporations and LLC, knowing that you need to have uh bylaws, articles of organization. What are the bylaws for? Like, this is how you operate in business with other businesses, because why, you have an entity that is now going to do business with another business. But the main reason is because it's been presented to people also in like a fantasy type of way, starting a business. Just start you one. And yes, it is that easy, but it's more intricate than just that particular. I woke up and I'm inspired to start a business. That's kind of like the first, stepping stone of it. But then you realize, like, bam, now what does it take to start a business? And I don't think enough people ask themselves that before they hop in and pick a name, do a logo, tell people they want to get a website. Like, those, it's almost superficial in a sense
It
when
is.
you realize you have now I need to have my accounting on deck. Now I need to have bookkeeping in place. Now I need to be able to track my spending. Now I need to know what's my loss. I need to have profit and loss sheets. I need to, these are things that you do need, that you can't get away from it when you're doing real business, not for play.
Right. And the real cost for a private financial education is not knowing how to move forward with the business once you get it started. Once again, we'll give you a quick example. How many trustees have came through trustee training, or people have contacted trustee training, the vault, and literally said, oh man, my lawyer told me this, or my accountant told me this, and people are shaky on firing that person. Not because the person said that it couldn't be done. They just advised them and told them that it there's these apprehensive reasons on why it can or can't, why it can or can't be done. And that's the interesting part, that is like that's not good, because that means where the source where you're getting the information is not created equal. And we're talking about the difference between public and private. So there's a clear distinction between, they can't be equal. But guess what? People are living off of their public education. People do not want to hear how hard it is to escape the clutches of poverty. The public is welfare. The private is self-sustaining. People don't want to know how much responsibility they have to take over their lives. They don't want to know that. What? I gotta make my own toothpaste? I gotta make my own deodorant? No one's telling you to subject your life to poverty. Once again, poverty's for the public. They're accepting stimulus checks right now. They're the ones that's accepting handouts in the public right now. That's the public. That's what's going on in the public right now. So the real cost for a private education means that you're not in that position. What happened? I was going private though. I was going private, and then this situation happened. So that you were going private, and this situation happened. So what happened in this situation? Did you hunker down and invest in your education privately now, or did you say, well, it's hard times, got to keep saving up my money? Isn't that what the public told you to do? That's relying on your public education. When this situation happened, it was a time where we heard so many entrepreneurs, investors say, it's a time for you to invest in your education. Okay, but what education? The private education. Okay, that's the one. What, the ones that list to the vault, the ones that are aware of the subject matters that the vault talks about, that's what they were supposed to be doing. And they were. And they are. But people are counting the cost on how much it's going to cost them right now. How you going to come to the vault and eliminate a problem for the rest of your life and say, oh man, woe is me. I got to pay $30,000. I got to pay $15,000. So you're never going to have that problem again for $15,000 to $30,000. That's what you're saying? Or $100,000. And you're negotiating? When you plan on actually generating $1 million in your lifetime, when you plan on generating millions of dollars in your lifetime, when you plan on generating billions of dollars in your lifetime, why do you think Bill Gates invested in it? Why do you think Mark Zuckerberg invested in it? He has a foundation. So does Bill Gates. Because they invested in their private financial education. That's why. And they were willing to pay whatever it cost in the beginning of them acquiring wealth to protect it. They're not going to have to worry about probate. Why your family left you property in probate, or why you're going to leave your family property in probate because you don't even have a will in place which dies intestate, or you got a will so now it's got to go through probate. That's the real cost of a financial education. You will literally work, what the mentors say? They say you will work a third to two-thirds of your entire life. And at the end of your life, when you pass away, if you don't have a proper private financial education, you will pass along wealth to your children and lose one third. And they almost try to say three-fourths of what you built your entire life. Because you got to deal with the lawyer, you got to deal with the court, you got to deal with all of that. That's probate court. How many people missing out on that? My family died and they left me in this peculiar position. Yeah, they left you in a peculiar position because they didn't have the proper private financial education. You didn't pass on wealth the right way. So death tax and inheritance tax wiped out your wealth because you didn't realize you can't own anything because you didn't literally create anything. Own nothing, control everything. That's the real cost. Is you're losing because you're a liability to yourself by not having enough education. You're paying the cost for ignorance. And ignorance is coming from a lack of ferociousness towards reading and investing in yourself. Everyone that's came through the vault and went through the what is that class? The class for Cornell's trading class. Same thing with the trustee stuff. If you went through and you don't use it, you're not you wasted your money. How many people went through private trustee training and didn't complete their training? Oh man, I didn't like the messenger. The messenger was hard. Guess what? The Vault's mentors told us to quit. So what you gonna do? Quit? You gonna quit on your private family's search for meaning? What you gonna keep running on a hamster wheel your whole life? So that's why you invested in your private financial education. But you can't go halfway into the private and say, oh man, it's hard over here. I actually gotta lift weights. Yeah, you gotta lift weights. You gotta exercise your mental muscles. Not just your physical muscles. Oh man, I'm gonna go out and dig ditches and get paid. Yeah, that's called trading time for money. Over here in the private financial education realm, it's about how many books, and not even just how many books you can read. It's about taking action on the right information. Even Cornell says in the trading class, rich people, they give you some complicated system, but the system to making money is the simplest system. Credit is the same way. How the hell is something that everybody supposedly says, oh, you gotta have credit, you gotta have credit? How is it so confusing? Because it's in the public. It's actually a private mechanism, it's a private tool. It's a private tool to hypothecate and create things out of thin air. Oh, wow. Well, how come I can't do that on the public side? How come I can't create things out of thin air? Because you didn't go put a bank in place. Guess what? Did you know you can own a bank? Yes. Did you know that you can actually hypothecate? Hold on. So the system that's being used against me for hypothecation, I could do that? Yes. That's the cost of a private financial education. A cost of a private financial education is not knowing the difference between a credit union and a traditional bank. But credit's the mystery, right? Let's go ahead and bust down into it real quick, Amatula. So, Amatula, what's this whole saying that, oh, well, if I don't have the money, how come I can't go to the bank and ask them for some money? How am I going to go to the bank and ask them for $60,000 when I don't even got $60,000? I don't got the money, so how they gonna give me the money? Hold on, I'm gonna go to the bank and ask the bank for millions of dollars, cause we're not talking about no petty money, no $60,000, $50,000. People trying to get $100,000 loan. That ain't no money. We're talking about millions of dollars. We're talking about $10 million, $12 million, cause those are the deals people aren't reaching for, because they don't have a private financial education. They're reaching for low hanging fruit. So let's go to the bigger deals, where it's the same information, if not less. It's less financial googly gook. Oh, the financial googly gook is, guess what? You got to have the money saved up in order to go in the bank and ask the bank for any money. So let's go ahead and talk about that, Amatsala. Do you got to have the money before you go in the bank and ask the bank for the money that you want? Especially if you're asking for millions of dollars and you ain't never made millions of dollars. But you need millions of dollars to start the company.
No, you don't have to. It's different ways. So just like what you were saying, a public and a private way. So it always and that comes down to just what we just previously spoke about, having your business properly structured. It's people want to get away from the work in it, but that's the work is bearing the fruit of your labor, right? So if you have a business and you have it set up properly, you go in there with your documents, the bank wants to know that you one, okay, you just starting out, maybe, right? We're talking about a startup. You just starting out, you need bread, you don't have it. They know you don't have it because why you just starting out. But when you come in there with your different documents in place and showing them you took the time to legitimize, properly build your business, structure it,
Mm-hmm.
and come in with all of your financials in order, then what do? You open up the door now. Now you can now you can entertain this idea. Now you can let the bank know how can we make money off of this deal. This is how y'all can make money off of this deal. Most people it's unheard of, and mainly I think fear stops them from going into banks and actually negotiating like that with bankers or creating relationships with private bankers where they can, get that type of funding. But that type of funding is available as well, not just solely based off of your credit score or you need to have this much money already. It's so many different ways, but again, that's not a public remedy. And that's not necessarily one people in the public like fast, public like the microwave. You know, they're not gonna go do the work. They're not gonna chop it up. They're not gonna put it in the pot, cook it. No, the nobody's gonna cook it right. Like it don't work like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's the difference. That's like the major difference right there.
Yeah.
You got to put that time and work into it. If you properly build it up, you can go to a bank and get it, and they recognize you when you sit down because the difference is in your paperwork.
And it's interesting that you said that because it is in the paperwork. You know, the presentation is a lot of people don't know about an executive summary. They keep talking about business plan. You got SBA talking about business plan. Well, why? So first of all, SBA is telling you about a business plan because SBA wants a business plan. Banks don't always want that. But guess what? Because you didn't call, because the person didn't call, because their uncle so and so or their aunt so and so said, hey, don't go to the bank because you ain't got that money in your bank account. What the hell you know about money? First of all, every Fortune 500 company that you all pay attention to and deal with was started out of someone's garage right now that didn't have the money. But oh no, people don't know about private equity. They don't know about VCs. They don't know about angel investors. These are terms that you get acclimated with when you get in the environment. You get acclimated where the different funding sources actually come from. It's not just, oh, from banks. People don't even know that insurance companies actually loan money. But then somebody types into the chat, hey, can the bank lend money? What is the bank doing every day? Or own property? What is property? You might as well say that's a digital currency. It's just numbers next to the title of an asset. It has to have a title in order for it to be property. Because why? There's title with property. It's two different types of title. But why wouldn't a bank be able to lend money? Banks are they create a usury environment. They create a hypothecation environment.
Banks make money off of lending money. That's how they make money.
Thank you.
Lending money, the more that's basically that's how they make money.
Oh no, I didn't
And
know that. So you're telling me that the bank is going to charge me interest for me borrowing money from the bank that I'm with? But once again, you got funded. So why are you mad? At least you didn't just sit your money in there and say, well, hey, I got my money in here, so can't you guys give me a loan? No, they actually said come with a practical idea that can help with mankind in service or product. It's not like they're taking every idea, so you actually have to have a good idea. That's the difference between a private education. Is that you actually have to come and be prepared. Have a quality idea and look to execute. There's a cost.
yeah, that's the separation right there. The work that has to be put in to kind of like now that you have this quality idea, you literally need to express it, on paper, uh, through numbers also, and break it down. And again, it needs to be appealing. You need to show them how they can make money off of this too. What's the benefit in us doing it? Whether it's that you'll be able to pay this money back with this interest rate, and that's how they're gonna make their money on that end. But it's all kind of different ways where you could go in it. Banks even have access to private lenders and things like that they can link you up with. But those are different stages of where
Okay,
you at.
well, let's talk about this. A private financial education is knowing an underwriter. Okay, a lot of people don't know what that term is, so we're gonna address them in this episode so they can get a whiff of what the terms are and who these people are, so they can get familiar with them and rub elbows and make these people their friends instead of their broke friends that can't help them out with getting any money. So, could you talk about having a partnership with the underwriter? What is an underwriter and why that position is so important in your life as a credit individual?
Yes, I love underwriters. I love taking them to lunch. So basically, the underwriters are the decision makers. They're gonna say yes or no. They make the decision on how much, whether or not they're gonna do approval, if it's gonna be conditional. And the best. I have some relationships with underwriters, and a lot of my programs that I offer are built off of me knowing directly my underwriter, being able to have that strong relationship. But they will tell you exactly what they need for in order for your client to qualify for whatever it is the program they have. or what exactly what they will accept, exactly what they won't accept. That's the power of an underwriter. The underwriter is literally the one who's gonna give you the keys to the door and let you go through. And you want to be able to have people like that who are the decision makers.
I
You
like
want the
the
decision makers.
I like real quick. I like what Mr. Powers said on the call that we had recently, where he talked about how the underwriter, knowing the underwriter, and the way he's dealing with the financial institutions. He said the public side is like walking through the front door. The private side is like walking through the side door. Specifically when we even talk about credit, because once again, because it's so misunderstood, everybody's standing at the front door. Well, there are a few people that say, "Hey, well, let me just walk around the house and see if there's another door," since obviously there's one door to get in, and everybody's trying to get in through the front door. So let's talk about the side door. I love that analogy of how he talked about that the private. Financial education aspect or private financing side is actually the side door as opposed to the front door. Could you talk about that? How that when he said that, how that impacted you?
Right. Well, it definitely made a lot of sense because when you going from, in a sense, you don't have to go through all of the checks and the hurdles that people through the front door, because why everybody trying to go through there? So they looking at everybody walking through that door in a sense. So from the side, and that's the private side, it's not something that everyone looks at. So a lot of times when people hear about it, it seems unbelievable. They can't believe it because they had to go through so many things. And that's one of the benefits of being able to, go through the side. You was walked in. You was already introduced. Maybe you was greeted with a glass of water. They they walked in sweaty. It's different. But it paints you to let you know it pays to know the right people, and it pays to also be able to see the benefit and finding alternative ways.
Right, and that's the same thing for a private financial education. It is, alternative education. How can you get an education to build a residual income if the person you're talking to is not generating or managing that? Period. We know so many people that say, "Oh, I got a mentor, but I'm not happy with my mentor." Why? Because they say they're making this money, but they're not really telling me how to make money for myself. We always hear that one. Everybody's got a mentor that's not telling them how to make the money exactly, or literally in the trenches with them, making the money with them. All the mentor do is come through, do drive-bys on lunch. They do lunch drive-bys. They come through, they get lunch out of you and keep it moving. And we're saying no, that's not the case. A mentor is somebody who should have done something that you're already looking to do. And when it
Right.
comes to private financial education, when we talk about credit, you gotta go to somebody that's done it. You want to know how to build a good credit score? Find somebody that's done it. You want to find somebody that's in trusteeship, that's living and can teach it and mentor someone in it. You got to find somebody that's doing it. That's what we did. You think we going in the public bank talking about, hey, you gonna teach us about the private trusteeship even though we got the public bank account? No, it's private mentors. And if everybody has so much luck on googling private trusteeship and getting mentors, then you wouldn't even probably be listening to the vault. But a lot of times people are listening to the vault because they understand the need for people that are under the accredited investor level, which is still is especially a lot of entrepreneurs that are looking to go and make that jump from the 100K business to to getting into the 200K business to beyond, especially grassroots and then pulling it off the ground. A lot of times they need additional capital, and so in turn they don't have the education to walk into a bank. We literally have people contact the vault. They've been in business for 10 to 15 years supposedly, but they never really separated their business bank account, and they've never filed taxes with the business. It's like, how does that help you? I just been filing taxes personally. Okay, so how does that help you when it comes to the business though? The business is not you. The business can hire somebody if you weren't there. That's what happens with the business. The business hires people when you're not there. That's a business. Business operates when you're not there. But what happened? So many people, they haven't been educated on how to hire, how to fire. People don't want to be fired because we live in the fa la 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 society. Firing is a real part of business. Most people should fire themselves. Why? Because they're not doing good due diligence. They're not doing good management as a manager. As a manager, you have to have time to think. How can you say you don't have time to think as an entrepreneur? See, in the private sector, you learn that thinking is the number one thing that you're supposed to do in the world. Oh, did I say that to you? Hold on. Was that an accident? You thought we were joking? You need us to repeat it? Thinking is the number one thing you can do. Idea generation is everything. Oh man, I'm working on this idea in my business. It's not working. Guess what? You got to come up with a new idea and do something different. But instead, how many people are beating their heads against the wall right now for the business that was just classified as non-essential? Movie theaters. People think, oh, well, I don't want a movie theater, but they just gonna come back in full force. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just walked through what's called a shock test. It's a social test. People are social distancing. Supposedly, they canceled the Olympics in 2021. Get real with yourself. It's only May. Get real with yourself. There's a rebound moment. When you drop a ball, it's supposed to rebound. You can rebound if you did take a slip and fall because of a lack of a private financial education. But you have a great opportunity in life right now to seek out those private financial education sources and get busy. Why? Because how many people come to America or the United States and say, oh, well, I came over with $1 and I turned it into millions of dollars? How many people supposedly slept in their car and they're a multimillionaire? It's called you got to handle the hard times like supposedly you praying for the good ones. It's just that simple. We appreciate you all for tuning in live and listening to replay. We always have great episodes with Amatala. Amatala, go ahead and drop your contact information to them for this episode because this is the real cost of a private financial education. We always introduce Cornell, the trading partner. That is a private financial education, ladies and gentlemen, with the trading. Trading is the same thing that the bankers are doing with your money when you deposit it at the bank. But how many people pussyfooted on actually investing in their private education with the trading webinar? Oh man, I don't know if it's worth $400 or $500. First of all, did you give your financial advisor more than $400 to $500? Did you spend more than $400 to $500 in a financial in stocks? Do you have that money in stocks and did you lose that money in stocks? What's the real cost of not investing and saying, hey, I need to know that? Why? Because it's dealing with money. The same thing you touch every day. But people think they got a proper financial education. How if it's not private? It's public. Look at the failure rate for the public. Private should be synonymous with absolute success. When you go private, you should pretty much be successful. That's just no games. That's being 100%. You do see a couple failures, but that's not true. Traditionally, if you make it private, you don't fail. Why? Because the system is set up for failure on the public side financially. That's why they need Social Security. That's why they need welfare. That's why they need handouts because it's a failure system. But oh no, no, it can't be true. Financial education, it can't be true, man. I went through 12 years. I went to college. I got all this financial education. What do they call these people that come through school now? They got a finance degree, and guess what? They live in paycheck to paycheck. Oh, did I say that? Oh, kids, did we say that? They are financial advisor and they're living paycheck to pay. Hold on. The insurance guy, the guy that was doing the insurance after he sold you the insurance, guess what? He's living paycheck to paycheck. But he also has a residual income coming in from old insurance policies. See, that's what is called a financial education. You put things in place that can hold you over when you supposedly are going through hard times. It's hard times financially. How is it hard times financially? Hard times on the outside is a reflection of the inside. And the inside is, and it comes from the real cost of for a private financial education is a lack of it and not investing in yourself. When you question if you should invest in yourself, guess what? You be prepared for financial failure. The ones that are winning are investing in their private financial education. They're in private wealth environments with us. They're investing in private trustee training. They're working with Famatala through the credit suite building company. They're building out their credit. They're working with Cornell. They're investing in control mechanisms, not ownership mechanisms, control mechanisms. Because it's own nothing, control everything. They're looking for control mechanisms. You gotta control your money. See, no one wants to believe Cornell when he says if you go through the trading class, you're never gonna have to worry about money ever again. And when we say go through it, we actually talking about applying it, not just going through. Because then a couple people they're gonna try to use the well, I went through it and I ain't a millionaire yet. Yeah, were you a millionaire from what you got previously? Right. So we're talking about a market and a business that people can be rich in, and people can be rich and wealthy in any market. And that's what we want you all to know is that in a private financial education situation, you are able to be financially nimble and cash flow because you have a proper financial education. You focus on cash flow. You focus on own not to control everything. You focus on partnership. People forget about partnership. See, the public side says you're an individual. On the private side, it says JV or GP. Everybody's doing JVs on the private side. That's elite. That's in successful positions. But how many people say, "Oh, it's hard to get money"? How is it hard to get money when there are people in the private looking they want to steal your idea, but they're not going to tell you they want to steal your idea. So they'll just give you money and they'll tell you, "We'll take 60% of the equity. We'll take 60% of the company. We'll take 40%, 51% of the company. We want to have a board member seat on your company. We'll give you money." But how many people are exploring those avenues? Because they don't have a proper private financial education. So, Amansa, could you share the credit? Because that is a private education, ladies and gentlemen. There's no way around it. Oh man, you trying to tell me credit is private? I got. Like you say, I got Credit Karma. It's guiding me on my way up. Sure, it is.
Right. Yeah, so for your credit needs, y'all can reach me yes credit solutions, literally just like that spell .com. So it's yes credit solutions.com. And schedule an appointment, and we can just go over your game plan, whether it's for the main focus before you get to business. That's what we're talking about, business. Get away from your personal, however you need that in point two. Just schedule your appointment, and we'll just go over your credit plan, and I'll be happy to help you on your path for financial literacy. Credit financial literacy is important. Clearly everything moving that way now, so I mean, don't if you don't know, then you've been lost. So you definitely need to call me or go on and schedule you an appointment.
Yes, and
But
the
thank
name.
you, Sharif. I appreciate you having me on the show. Having me here with you, everyone who tuned in. Appreciate y'all. Hope y'all was able to really grab, what we said. I enjoyed myself.
Oh yeah, thank you all. Thank you always. We've dealt with you for many years and great reputation and just great connections. So many people say, "Oh man, I listen to the YouTube. It's free, but I don't know if she's legit." So guess what? Oh, but you gonna trust the people on social media? Okay. So once again, it's an investment in your education, and is there a level of risk? Always. But when you can contact somebody that actually says, "Hey, I can put you in contact with the underwriters," how many people are saying that in the public? See how many so-called black enterprisers, these elite black enterprises, are sharing with you about that, knowing good and daggone well they taking bank money. All of them have taken bank money. That's why it's called getting a deal. They're getting it either from VCs. They're getting it from we get it from VCs. You get it from hedge funds. They get it from banks. Well, I got a
Yep,
deal,
Wells
man. I need a
Fargo.
deal. I need to get that deal. I need to sign me my deal. Everybody's trying to sign a deal from somebody else getting money from the bank or a private lending institution. And they didn't go directly, so guess what? Now they got to pay an interest fee. And it's higher because they didn't explore the private avenues. They didn't take the risk. It was more important to keep scrolling, watch the 15-second video instead of actually say, "I need to just go ahead and reach out and not have an ego." See, people have egos when it comes to private financial education. See, in the private, there is no ego. It's learning. Financial information is changing every single day. Every time we talk to Amata, she's talking about these different acts that they're passing. She's talking about the SBA programs that are coming through. Why? Because financial information is changing. See, you not having a private financial education puts you in a position where you don't even know that they might be taking away FHA. Oh man, you done saved up for 2 to 3 years. You've been trying to get your 20% deposit or your 5% deposit. And guess what? The rules have just changed in the financial market. Period. Especially on the public side. But oh no, I don't have a. I don't. Should I reach out to a Matala? She's the credit. She's some. I don't really know anybody that specifically specializes in credit building for companies or person. I don't know anybody. That's who you reach out to. You start seeking sources for that mentorship. But oh no no, I don't know if I could do that because I don't know. She's not Susie Orman. She's not on TV. Even though she is on TV, she's not wearing the makeup and doing this on the podcast right now. Okay. The real cost for a private financial education is we've already had people go through the vault, listen to the vault about the real estate revolving line of credit, literally pay $2,000 for the revolving line of credit for the real estate and come out with over $700,000 in credit. Meaning that they can use a $700,000 line of credit and they pay $2,000 for that. And they can grow it. And there's so many other perks that the individual that got it doesn't even want to tell anybody else. And it's the same thing for a modular. She's okay with sharing it with people. But yes. Oh
Yes,
man.
it's real. And that's private. Like, I guess that's not something that's publicly advertised. So that is also, someone is able to acknowledge and kind of see the value in it by being able to have some private education, because then you don't have to do all of that, convincing and paint a picture. They already know. They see the value as soon as it's spoken, and that's a power position. Like, that's a powerful product.
Right. Because it's a revolving line where people think, oh, I gotta go get a limited line. Don't even know about a revolving line. Ladies and gentlemen, people don't even understand how powerful what we just talked about was about a revolving line of real estate credit. When we're talking about lending practices right now, where you got banks that didn't want to accept government funds for people to bail out people, and they said we're going to continue with our lending practices. Well, lending practices have been changed per legislation. Now you can't give more. When they wanted to put people in houses, guess what? You can't do that now. Why? Because they might not have the job for it. The job that you used to have that was paying 60 to 80 to $100,000 a year as an engineer, guess what? They're paying $54,000 now in the United States. They're paying less than 60K in the United States now for an engineer job. It don't matter if you went to Brown, Cornell, or George Washington University. It doesn't matter. But I'm an engineer though. The real cost for a private financial education is you will be in a financial situation, regardless of whether you have a job or not, if you don't invest in your private financial education. Because finance is contract, and contract is private, period. And the cost is every day that you don't invest in this, every dream that you have on the wall, go ahead and write how much it's worth to you. Because that's how much you're actually missing to get started to get it. You're missing that money. It's missing now. That's what it's costing you. You actually need the millions of dollars for your dream house. You actually need the hundreds of thousands of dollars to start that business. You need that. How do you get it? You got to invest in your private education. Whether it's Trustee Training, y'all can contact this Christian at Trust Christian, or y'all can reach out to Yes Credit Solutions. But either way, the Vault has done its best to provide themselves as a resource, and we come to you all from the perspective of private because guess what? You wouldn't even be able to talk about we wouldn't even be able to talk about finance if we weren't talking about it from the private perspective. Why? Because the public is nothing but baloney. Everybody's trying to walk through the front door. And then once you find out that there's a side door called the private, do you get off the path of public and walk to the side and walk through the door and sit down at the table and say, wow, I can come in here and I can sit freely because it's a come and go as you please environment. But I can come in here and I can sit down and then I can come back and bring something to the table. See, people are counting the cost for not bringing something to the table. Amatala has invested in herself because she went through public school too. She was taught to go to school, get a good education, get a good job, story too. And she invested in her private education, became an entrepreneur, and has been a phenomenal entrepreneur. And now, knowing that there's a crimp in the hourglass with the credit, has niched herself in something that is an essential industry. So, how was she hurting during the downturn, supposedly? She wasn't hurting. She was doing her best to be her best because she invested in what she knew was true. She heard about the side door. She went through the side door. She sat at the table. She actually left out the side door, came back, and put some food on the table. She didn't act. What's the term that everybody wants to use the cliche for? Oh, she didn't have somebody give her a fish. She actually learned how to fish. That's the difference. Are you going to learn finance, private financial education, and learn how to fish? Or are you going to be given a fish via a stimulus check, via a homeless and a welfare check? Oh, the entrepreneurs are even begging for money. The small business entrepreneurs sound like the Wall Street entrepreneurs. The entrepreneur, excuse me, not even the Wall Street entrepreneurs, the Wall Street executives that they were benefiting from the downturn in 2008, just like they were benefiting from it in 2020. And they're still going to get their bonuses at the end of the year. People are calling business right now a botch for 2020. Oh, it's over. Let 2020 go. Guess what? The CEOs of large banks are going to rake in the cash. It's bonus
Still.
season every year. Ain't no years they taking off. This is where businesses cut employees, not the CEOs. That's the real cost for not having a private financial education and being in control of streams of income coming into your life. Now some CEO is sitting behind a company that's supposedly filing for bankruptcy and they're still getting bonuses. And people are perplexed by this. You're perplexed because you don't have a private financial education. And if you want to do something about it, feel free to reach out to Christian and Trust Christian and Vault. Yes, Credit Solutions. Y'all can contact the Vault Christian and Trust Christian for Cornell. Get in the trading webinar. He only does that trading webinar per request. And people have come through and disrespected the information. The information worth over $100,000. And not only that, it's infinite when you can invest small amounts of money and grow it to infinite. How many people are in infinite businesses? They got market caps. There's no market cap. There's a market cap to the financial markets, but that's like asking a matula, are there market caps to the revolving? Listen, it's called revolving. That means it doesn't end line of credit. That's the world we live in. Of dichotomies. And so many people are okay with the cynical, negative, non-experienced side of the financial game. Oh man, it's going to be hard to get out of poverty. Oh man, we need the government to help us out in hard times. We hear all the excuses and the stories. The government is supposed to help you, the people? That's why they got the Trace Act. That's why they got the CARES Act. Be prepared for more. We appreciate you all for tuning in live and listening to replay. Look forward to hearing from you all. Christian at trustchristian.com. If you want to reach out to a Matala for the credit, feel free. Yes, Credit Solutions with a S. Credit Solutions. Yes, creditsolutions.com. Look forward to hearing from you all.